Hey everybody, welcome back to the dungeon. Pugz here. I want to thank you guys for hanging out with me again. So yesterday we had released the 6.5 Grendel hydroforming video, and we'd gotten some feedback on it in regards to the quality of the brass upon finishing. A lot of people were amazed that the brass was coming out looking so nice and brand new. So they had asked me to go ahead and do another video on what I do to go ahead and get my brass clean. But I don't just want to do it just that way. I want to compare it to the way that we see a lot of people who do it in the reloading groups on Facebook, or the reloading groups that you see on the message boards, or even YouTube. They tell you about the Dawn and Lemmishine concept. I'll also show you the type of media in which I use. I have two different kinds. One, like I had mentioned in the video before, that I don't use anymore. And I have one where I'm using this new media now. We'll talk about what that is and where to get it. And we'll go ahead and do a side-by-side comparison for the same time frames with the same amount of brass inside each of our wet tumblers, because that's what we do. I do wet tumbling. And we'll see what works for me. We'll see what the other batch works like for everybody else. We'll compare the two when we're done. And hopefully we'll have some nice clean brass when we're done. So go ahead and stay tuned. We're about to get started. Okay, so starting off, when we're working with like range brass or scrap brass or whatever the case may be, we want to make sure we do safety first. There's lots of contaminants and chemicals and, who knows what on the brass, but also there's like the lead aspect of it, gunpowder, fire, things like that. So I pick up these gloves from Harbor Freight. They're like $2. They're made by Hardy. They got like this rubberized surface to them kind of deal. It helps keep a barrier between your body and the range brass. So, you'll still want to wash your hands after the fact when you do this, but it just helps not to get anything on there. But if you guys aren't subscribed to like any of the Harbor Freight emails, you can check out. I got a little subscription myself. They come in the mail, they come in my email, whatever the case may be, and I get a ton of free lights. So there's all kinds of free gifts. I don't get sponsored by Harbor Freight, nothing. This is my second video. But I did want to tell you guys, like, there's some cheap ways you can go ahead and do things to be safe for not only your family, but your body. So gloves on. Alright, so what we have here today is we have some mixed brass that's straight from the range. This happens to be from a military range. It's mixed with Lake City 556, WCC 308, and some WCC 9mm. So we have two batches with roughly about the same amount of brass in each. And what's going to happen is we're going to have a batch 1 and a batch 2. And with these batches, we're going to put them in corresponding tumblers, but in each of the tumblers, we're going to do something a little bit different. So let's go ahead and get this ready, and let's get over to the tumblers. All right, so what we've got now is over on my washer and dryer, I have two Frankfurt Arsenal Platinum Prep wet tumblers. There's a fancy name. I've been using them now for a little over 2 years. Before this, I was using a bunch of the Lyman tumblers, the Turbo, the Cyclone, those Frankfurt Arsenal dry tumblers exclusively. That's how I got my brass clean. But being introduced to the wet tumbling, I went ahead and picked up several of these, and what we're going to do now is I've moved the batches over. This is batch 1 and batch 2 as we saw in the previous shot. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put batch 1 in tumbler 1, batch 2 in tumbler 2, and we'll go ahead and start talking about the differences that we're going to do between the two of these. Alright, so one, we're going to unscrew the lid. Now, we want to make sure the plastic lids we have here, there's a gasket on here. That's what seals against the body of the tumbler itself. Plastic side inside. A lot of people make the mistake and do it outside. That's not the case. Plastic on the inside, rubber on the inside, plastic facing the inside. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and move all this brass out. Now, one of the things, as you can see, this is kind of a pain in the butt having to get all the brass in here. But in today's modern age, we have what's called 3D printing. And right now, we have been in the process here at the dungeon of designing a funnel that will screw onto the top here and give you about an 8-inch funnel hole. So essentially you just take and dump your brass in. But since we're in the designing stage of it right now, and the prototype is currently on the printer, literally as we speak. We're doing our best here to get as much in here as we possibly can. So that is batch 1, and now we will load batch 2. Again, making sure we're wearing our gloves. Less contamination from our skin and our body from lead and all this other fancy stuff. You know, better off the healthier we are. So, and I'd say this brass, it's from the same batch. So I would say this batch is, pretty dirty. It's definitely range brass. It is military. It is once fired, guaranteed. It's the brass I tend to buy the most, or tend to get here at the shop the most. Because for the price, as well as it being military, we get a little bit, in my opinion, a better quality brass. So Lake City, WCC, whatever the case may be, I seem to like this better. So here we go. We got batch 1 and we got batch 2 all loaded up. So next we're going to go ahead and look at the type of media that we're going to put into batch 1 and batch 2. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the different types of wet tumbling media that I use for each of these. In batch 1, we're going to use the process I use now, which is called the stainless steel chips. It's put out by a company called Southern Shine Media. This is what I prefer. After years of testing the other stuff, this is what it looks like. Just tiny, tiny, tiny chips. These chips don't get stuck in the primer pockets. They don't get stuck anywhere in the case. Doesn't matter what caliber it is or how big the case is or how small the case is. So this is what we're going to put into batch number 1. Clean that off so we get to what we're going to put into batch number 2. Now batch number 2, with each of the Frankfurt Arsenal tumblers, they're like 160 to 180 bucks depending on if you catch them on sale or not. But they come with 5 pounds of stainless media, which are these little pins. So you can see the difference between the chips and the pins. And here, we'll go ahead and do a side-by-side. So those are the 2 types of media that I have here in the dungeon. The stainless steel chips are what I prefer. They're going in batch 1. And the pins, the stainless pins, these are the Frankfurt Arsenal stainless pins. They're going to go in batch 2. So we're going to test each of the medias to see how they do for each of the batches. So let's go ahead and start getting these in there. Now, I did 10 scoops. Now, I've already pre-measured this. I've done this enough that these 10 scoops to me are right around 5.5, 6 pounds. So, that means we got about 7, 8 pounds of brass, between 5 and 6 pounds of stainless steel chips in batch 1. And over here in batch 2, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to guesstimate because I don't have my scale with me and I've never used one of these laundry detergent things. The scoop that I usually use is not down here. But I know what I have in the bucket, and I'll probably end up using most of this bucket. there's just about 6 pounds of pin. I actually think it's a little light because I found more with the stainless pins. I end up losing more pins than I do with the chips. So the weight just is a little bit better. So there we go. So now that we've got our media selected, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to show you what we're putting in chemically for each of these to help clean the brass, get them nice and clean. Because when they come out, you know, we want them to be as clean as possible, because depending on what we do with them, whether we store them, whether we go ahead and process them immediately, or, you know, if we're going to sell them, whatever the case may be, we want them looking as good as we can. So give me a second or two. We're going to go ahead and flip over and get the products out here to show you guys what we're putting in. Alright guys, so here we are at batch 1. This is with the stainless chips. So now the stainless chips, I go ahead and break like a cardinal rule of the whole wet tumbling experience. I use hot water. So to me, the hot water goes ahead and it breaks the gunk up that's on each of the pieces of brass, gets the primer pockets a little bit better. So what's going to happen is we're going to turn the faucet on. We're going to let that water heat up. And this is just my utility like bathroom here in the shop, so don't mind it. Go ahead so we can feel the water. It's nice and hot. And what we're going to do is we're going to fill up the water pretty much to about this line here on the tumbler. It usually takes just over 5 full cups here. Now this is scalding hot water. Our hot water heater is like 10 feet away. So this is the hottest you can get. I don't know if you see the steam coming off it, but it is nice and it is hot. Alright, so just that little bit extra there. Now we got the steaming hot water, as you guys can see, coming in here. So we got to fill it to the line. It's just right about here. So this is batch 1. This is what we're doing for batch 1 with the water. Next we're going to show what we do with batch 2 for the water. Alright guys, so here we are with batch 2. Batch 2's got the pins in it, remember? So what we've got going on here now is all of the resources that I've seen and read and heard is they use cold water. So we're going to use cold water in this one here. We're going to get the same cup we were using before, but now instead of being hot, we're going to make it cold. So I got to give it a second to get the hot water out of the tubes or the pipes, whatever, and then it's the same tumbler. So we're going to do the exact same thing again. About 5 full cups. Should be it. Yep, that's it. So we'll turn that off. Now we got 5 full cups in here. Again, we're bringing it up right about here to this line, and now what we're going to do is we're going to go put the additives and the chemicals into it. So let's go do that now. Okay, so batch 1, I pretty much use the cheapest car wash and car wax combo that you can get. I think I've tested 6 at this point, like the Meguiar's, the Turtle Wax, what do you call it? The Blue Coral, obviously, the Super Tech brand, whatever I can get my hands on. Right now we're on the Blue Coral brand, but what I personally like is the Meguiar's car wash, the Deep Crystal. You don't have to use hardly any of this to get the same result, but I noticed here with the Blue Coral stuff, you got to put quite a bit more. So I'm going to pour that in here, and then I'll show you what we're going to do in batch 2. That's probably about as much as I throw in there. So that's batch 1. Now we also, in here in Baltimore, I use Lemmishine with my stuff. I do just about about a quarter size. And that's it. That's all I do for myself when we process brass. And then from there, you know, we make sure we got the lid. This part faces down with the gasket. And we get the lid nice and tight. So now this is ready to go. I give it a little quick mix. Number 1 is on it. So we will get that running here in a second. But first we need to go ahead and get the batch number 2. Again, remember, same brass, different pins. So I'm using the standard pins with this, but the Dawn Ultra Platinum. Some say Dawn, some say Palmolive. Dawn Ultra Platinum? I think we got this on sale. I know they say they put a general, like a liberal amount in there. I'd say that's probably about what I put in there when I was using it. I'd say that's probably about maybe a little less than a quarter of a cup, which is more, but with the way the water works here in Baltimore, that's what I said, that's what works best for me. And again, with the Lemmishine, about the size of a quarter. And then again, we're going to take the lid. Nice clean gasket. Plastic down, gasket. Like so. And what's going to happen is, to keep the times the same, just to give it both of them the best chance possible kind of deal, we're going to go ahead and put it on for 3 hours. Now, if you come around here and look, we have the rotary tumbler dial. So I will mix this batch up just like I did the batch 1. Make sure there's no leaks. And now I will put these to 3 hours each. Now it's going to get loud, so I'm going to turn them on. We'll cut down to it just so you can see them spinning kind of deal. And then we're going to get the 3 hours, and we're going to come back and check it. 3 hours.